You're watching the New Stack Makers, a podcast for people who develop, deploy, and manage at-scale software. For more information and articles about at-scale technologies, please visit thenewstack.io. Now enjoy the show.
Kong Incorporated is a leading developer of cloud API technologies and is on a mission to enable companies around the world to become API first. Kong helps organizations globally, from startups to Fortune 500 enterprises, unleash developer productivity, build securely, and accelerate time to market.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the New Stack Makers. I'm your host, Heather Joslin, Editor-in-Chief of the New Stack, and today we're going to talk about something that we've written about a lot in TNS and we've talked about a lot on our Makers podcast, and that's AI. And we're going to take a little different tack today. We're going to talk about some of the challenges inherent in working with, building with generative AI technology, in adopting it. And we're specifically going to talk about Kong's AI Gateway, which is an open source plugin for Kong API Gateway, and which is this is a project aimed at making all of that process easier in working with generative AI. Specifically, we're going to talk today to Marco Palladino, CTO and co-founder of Kong. Hi, Marco.
Hello.
Hi. Marco, can you tell us a little bit about what Kong does?
Yes, Kong is a vendor. It is a company that creates a platform for managing all the connectivity across the organization. So we started with, of course, Kong Gateway, our API management solution. But then over the years, we have expanded with our service mesh offering, with our AI Gateway offering. We also have, the full life cycle of managing APIs that includes the catalog, the developer portal, the analytics. So essentially, it is that unified control plane for all of the connectivity in the organization.
Terrific. So let's jump into this topic of the challenges in building and adopting generative AI technology. If you're a developer, what are some of the challenges? Everybody's got, everyone's working with LLMs. Everyone's, trying to squeeze some benefits out of this in terms of productivity, in terms of the speed it takes to the velocity of development and so on, and serving their customers better. What do you see as some of the challenges in that?
Well, there are a few challenges and a few requirements that are needed in order to make sure that our GenAI applications are successful in production. So first and foremost, from a developer standpoint, obviously we want to do more with less. We want to make sure that as we build more and more AI applications or AI agents, if there are some cross-cutting requirements, and there are a lot of them, if there are cross-cutting requirements, we don't duplicate that work every time. We need to create something new. So that's from a developer standpoint. And at the same time, from a platform standpoint, the organization wants to make sure that they provide the right type of infrastructure to the application teams that are now building these new GenAI applications in the organization. We all started building chatbots type of applications, and then organizations started to adopt the Copilot, use cases for improving developer productivity. It's all powered by GenAI. It helps developers do more with less. But I think that what we're seeing now, it's the latest generation of applications that are, quite frankly, the ones that are a little bit more interesting. And those are the AI agents that essentially can fundamentally improve the efficiency of the organization. We can take a process or a business process or a capability and integration that we want to build, and we can plug intelligence into it in such a way that we can deploy these agents almost as virtual employees to be able to take care of some of these processes. And now, when it comes to creating all of these applications, of course, the organization wants to know that no sensitive data or customer data, for example, leaks into the models, that there is the right level of observability, of governance when accessing the models. And the developers on the other end, they don't want to go and build some of these requirements like RAG, like sanitization of a PII, like the ability to route between one model to another, the ability to implement semantic guardrailing or semantic caching across their applications all the time. So, truly, we're seeing now a maturity level, in the adoption of GenAI that's now compelling both developers and platform teams to figure out, is there a way that we can accelerate all of this instead of rebuilding it every time?
Yeah. And there's also been some attention on security of late in regard to AI. It seems what are some of the specific obstacles, challenges around security with AI?
I mean, like every application that we build or API that we build, AI agents, of course, everything in our world needs to have security. Otherwise, it's not going to scale properly in the world. And so AI, of course, also has security requirements. Typically, these security requirements are around not sharing sensitive customer data in the models in such a way that perhaps they could be extracted from another application, right? That creates a security risk, a customer data risk, a compliance risk, to be fair. And at the same time, we also want to make sure that we are able to implement some level of guardrails so that we can block inappropriate behavior that we do not want our agents or chatbots to perform as we deploy them in production with our customers or internal tooling. Now, security, of course, needs to be able to be applied on top of these applications. And the best way to do it without slowing down the developers, it is to do it on the infrastructure level. And so what we're seeing is the emergence of AI infrastructure that at Kong we deliver through an AI gateway, where basically it gives us the opportunity to apply these security policies, to apply PII sanitization policies without disrupting the work that developers are doing, and at the same time having the peace of mind that the usage of AI in the organization is appropriate.
So the security is on the infrastructure side as opposed to it's the guardrails being more built in as opposed to the developer being responsible for it.
Of course, we want the developers to always think about security. Like everybody says, security is not an add-on. It's not just something that we add at the end.
Yeah.
But there are some security requirements that we don't want to rebuild over time, because the risk of rebuilding it over time is that we're going to rebuild it in an inconsistent way. And there's nothing worse in security than having inconsistent security that works differently based on the models that we use or the developers that are implementing it. And so we don't want them to build these security features all the time. We want them to use these security features. And how do they use them? Through the infrastructure that we give them to be productive.
You used a term that I've heard in a previous answer that I've heard a lot, but I don't know if our TNS readers are all aware of what it means yet. Semantic catching. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means? What's your definition of that?
AI models can be consumed via an API, right? But to treat a model just like an API, it wouldn't be very useful. We need to go one level deeper and understand what is the intent of what we are doing with the models. So the ability to semantically understand what is the meaning and the intent of the prompts allow us to then implement capabilities that act upon the intent of what the developers are trying to do or the customer is trying to do. So for example, semantic caching is the ability to identify prompts that have the same meaning, but perhaps are using different words, and being able to accelerate our AI requests while at the same time reducing the costs on the models. Many organizations out there are also very cost conscious, especially with a large number of tokens. That bill can get very high very soon.
Yeah.
And so semantic caching, to give an example, let's say that I send a prompt that says, how many people live in New York? That's one prompt. And then I send another prompt, what is the population of New York? I am really asking for the same thing, just using different words. And so the gateway, in this case, the AI gateway, can semantically understand this is the same prompt, therefore return the cached response if there was one already. And semantic guardrailing is a very similar concept. For example, we can implement a semantic guardrail that says, we don't want any political topic or inappropriate topic or out of topic to be discussed. And we can semantically schedule that rule in such a way that anything that matches that intent, it's going to be flagged and therefore prevented.
Well, let's get into what Kong's solution is to this. You talked about. Can you tell us a little bit about the AI Gateway? I know it was introduced in beta in February of 2024. Correct?
That's right.
And can you give us the evolution of it to the current version?
Well, Kong has evolved obviously to manage all the connectivity in the organization. And so when we started to use models, harnessing this intelligence through the models just becomes yet another form of connectivity, of API connectivity in the organization. And so it was very natural for us to expand our API and service mesh offering to also introduce the ability to manage AI traffic and being able to manage it in a very rich way with a set of capabilities that go above and beyond simply treating the models as an API. So, of course, we decided that this was an entire different solution from just managing APIs, and therefore we call this the AI gateway. So the AI gateway, it's something that sits in between the applications, the agents that we build, that are using AI and the models that we want to consume. We support all the models from all the providers out there. So we support cloud models like, hosted by Bedrock, Azure AI, GCP, as well as the self-hosted Mistral models, Llama, OpenAI, and so on, Hugging Face. So millions of models that we can leverage. And we provide the ability to have a universal API where developers can build once and consume as many models as they want from as many providers as they want. And that improves the developer efficiency, but also allows us to use the best model for the job. And then on top of that, we provide the ability to secure it, to accelerate it, to semantically route it. So basically choosing the best model for the job without the developer having to tell us in advance what is the model that they want to use. There's going to be a sprawl of models. And so it's very challenging at scale to always choose the right model for the job. Observability, governance, all of these capabilities.
Yep. So it's declarative in a sense, like you just tell it what you want and you don't have to choose. You don't have to choose a particular model. It's all available to you.
Well, so it depends how the organization wants to deploy it. Obviously, this is an enterprise offering that provides a certain level of customization. But basically, the platform team can decide to expose specific models they want the developers to use, or they can decide to allow every model from a specific provider, let's say Bedrock, to be consumed.
Okay.
And then once they expose these models, they can set up governance rules and tiers of access and manage the access of the AI models and then all the capabilities I've described. And now we just made a new version of our AI gateway that essentially allows to also apply sanitization policies for PII across 30 plus different categories of PII, as well as automatically enabling RAG, which is a technique that improves the quality of the responses for our AI responses. And developers don't have to build that anymore. It is enabled by default simply by using the AI gateway and configuring the vector databases that we should be connecting to. So, we're trying to make life easier for developers to build, quicker building of AI agents and applications, while at the same time giving control to the organization of all of these new class of traffic, AI traffic, that in addition to API and event traffic, it's making up the portfolio of connectivity among all the applications, the APIs, and the models that we use.
I want to dive in a little bit to RAG, and for listeners who may not, if you've been following our coverage, you know that means retrieval-augmented generation, or RAG to its friends. Can you dive in a little bit to how it works in AI Gateway, how these automated RAG pipelines work to reduce hallucinations?
I think that everybody who's listening to this has had experiences of an AI being very confident, but confidently wrong in giving an answer. AI is very good at lying sometimes in a confident way. And so how do we make AI a little bit smarter and more accurate? Well, there is really two different ways we can do that. Either we build better models, so we fine-tune models that have more data, more specific data, so that AI can reduce the amount of hallucinations. So, when AI confidently makes a mistake in this industry, this is called an hallucination. AI has hallucinated. It told me something that made no sense. So we can either fine-tune the models, or when we send the prompt, we can add more relevant data to that prompt in such a way that the model has the right amount of context to be able to give us a correct answer. Now, RAG pipelines, which is the ability to enhance our prompts with data, these were up until now manual processes developers had to build over and over again whenever they created new prompts or created new agents. So we thought that that was a waste of time for developers as well as a security risk, because now these agents have to have access to the vector databases. And so we built a capability that basically enables RAG by default. And so by default, the AI gateway becomes the client to the vector database. And on the fly, it will add relevant information to the prompts it sees in flight in such a way that developers don't have to build it. And by default, we get better accuracy from all the models that we're using. So our end user experiences get more accurate out of the box.
I want to ask a little bit. We talked a little bit about AI agents in the beginning earlier in this conversation. What are your thoughts about where that whole space is heading in terms of it's growing so fast? It's
very exciting. As you can tell, it's one, I think, of the most exciting developments in AI. AI agents is the idea of having a virtual employee. Think of it, a virtual employee that is intelligent, that can do things for us that we don't need a human to do anymore. And so an AI agent, for example, can be a product manager for an API. We would hire product managers to work with developers, make sure that the APIs they create, for example, are correct, they're beautiful, they're properly documented. Well, we can have an AI agent that does that can parse documentation, find inaccuracies, can even fix the documentation for us. We can basically replace the business flows or processes that before were manual. We can replace them with AI and therefore making them autonomous and intelligent. Now, the AI agents, of course, are only going to be as capable as the APIs that they can consume to be able to interact with data and services of the organization. So for any company out there that has a plan to go and explore the creation of AI agents, it is very important that that organization has full visibility on the portfolio of internal APIs that the agents can leverage in order to be able to be useful. And so we see now the intersection of AI, but also APIs, and the APIs almost become the legs and hands of the agents because they determine what we can do with those agents. But agents are going to improve productivity for organizations. They will reduce costs. They're going to be essentially doing tasks that we don't want to do or we don't have the capacity to do today in a very cheap and autonomous way.
Speaking of what's ahead, I mean, what's on the roadmap at Kong for the next several months that they can talk about in terms of either this project AI Gateway or more generally?
Well, today we have more than 50 AI-specific features that we have developed among all the ones that I've just discussed. There's a lot more, and it's already quite comprehensive. And it's built on top of the same underlying technology core that has been processing trillions of requests in the world with our leading API gateway. But some of the things that are very interesting for us to develop, it is to provide more and more capabilities for these agentic infrastructure that allows to run agents at scale. And so some of the things that we're going to be working on moving forward, it is, for example, the ability to determine a set of functions that agents can perform, not in the code of the agents themselves that developers have to write, but in the AI gateway itself, in such a way that we can reduce code duplication, improve developer efficiency, have more control on how our agents interact with the portfolio of APIs that the organization has. And then also the ability to then configure all of this from a management standpoint on top of our Connect platform. And so our platform today already has managers for gateways, for meshes. We're introducing a manager for AI, where in a very easy and visual way, the platform teams can expose models, observe the analytics of those models. They can track costs across different applications, different teams. They have essentially visibility on all of these AI traffic. Without this, it would be the Wild West. Nobody knows what anybody's doing. And that, of course, it's not a good starting point when it comes to managing this type of traffic.
Okay. Yeah. So it sounds pretty exciting. And I'll just to clarify, the current version of AI Gateway, is it in general availability? Is it in it's still in the beta phase, or?
It will be GA on the first week of April.
Okay.
This year, of
Which
in a
is
week, basically. Yeah.
Well, which will be in the past by the time will be about
Yes.
the time we air this. But
That's right.
That's great.
Right.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing that news with us, and that seems like a good place to stop. So I want to thank Marco Palladino from Kong for joining us. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
I want to thank all of you for joining our conversation today. This has been Heather Joslin from the New Stack Makers. We'll see you next time.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the major social media platforms. You can always find us at thenewstack.io. We hope to see you soon.